Okay, today I will be replacing the firmware of the 66319B HP power supply. Currently it has firmware version A2 point something, and that does not support the data logging commands that the newer A3 series of firmware supports. So what you need is a programmed ROM from Keysight, which you can order through them, or you can flash it yourself. You also need torx drivers and a PLCC extraction tool like this. So I forgot to mention you'll also need a 9/32 and a 3/16 bolt driver to take off the I/O port screws on the back, and also a normal Phillips head screwdriver. Okay, to start this repair, you have to first take off these screws on the bottom. It's a heavy unit, so be careful. One of them is hidden by a rear leg, and the other one you can take off the leg to make it easier to get to. So, wrong size. Let's try this one. So take your T10 driver. I'm going to use this lithium powered driver to take them off more quickly. Yeah, these two bolts also provide grounding for the chassis, so they are important to replace after completing the repair. Then you take off the bolts holding the rear bezel on with a smaller T10 driver. After loosening those, the rear bezel will just slide off, and the chassis frame can slide out of the unit. The next step of what you need to do is undo this Phillips head screw on the side, which holds this little, I think it's a ADC board. So free that, flip it out, and then the next step is to undo these I/O port bolts on the rear. As I said, you need a 9/32 screw or bolt driver. So there goes the GPIB connector, and now for the serial port, it is a 3/16. And then be careful with these ribbon cables, the flat flex cables, but you can use this little plastic hold to help pull this board out. There's a little slot here. Fold it over like so, trying not to fatigue these cables so much. Finally, you can take your PLCC extraction tool. Well, it was in my pocket all along. It took me a moment to find it. And this is the ROM I see in the corner here, U205. This tool is not the best, but if you finagle it, you can get the two arms beneath the corners of the chip, like that. And it seems like both sides aren't going down, so I'll pull that side out and scratch the packaging, pull that out, try to get the other side. I think that these sockets just don't have as much room around it as some other models. Also be careful, it's a surface mount socket, so it will be somewhat more fragile. So there, the ROM is out. Open your new ROM. Identify pin 1, which is identified. There, a jet is flying over for the Purdue homecoming. Maybe you can hear that rumble in the background. Anyway, so there's a dot on the middle of this side of the package identifying pin 1, and that will align with the dot on the silk screen of the PCB, which is mostly hidden by the sockets, so it's the side towards these IDT branded chips, U207 and 208. Firmly press it down to install it. This ROM is version A0301, and its model number is 5182-9091. Now to put things back together, you do the operations in reverse, fold over your digital card, get the slot in the side of the chassis in place, push it back, and then what I do is I will hand tighten these bolts holding the serial ports and the GPIO port. The driver doesn't have a clutch here, so it probably will over torque these connectors, so I'd rather do it by hand. The order that these washers go on is, the first one is just the flat washer, and then the second one is a split ring washer that goes on the outside of the unit. So that goes there. Do your other one. Grab your driver. Which I can't find. It's back here. And tighten your ports. This I/O card goes back where the ADC card goes back, and there are two alignment slots here. Also, you need to be careful that you don't damage this flat flex connector on the side of the chassis. So pull it down, find the screw that you took off to hold it, to mount it. Screw it in. And once you replace the case, it is complete. When I first got this unit, the front panel buttons were pushed in, so you couldn't use it very easily. And I had to take the front panel off to get the soft buttons in the correct position. That procedure is not too bad once you find all of the bolts. You have to take off this one on the right side of the unit, and then there's another matching one right here on the other end. Then you have to detach this power button plunger so that it's out of the way. Then you will be able to rotate the front panel to the side and it will come off. Okay, so now to replace the case. So let me get that. Or actually, I think I'm going to just try powering it on and seeing if it works. I won't run it for long, so that if there are any thermal issues with running it without the case, it won't overheat. But this will be a good check of whether the new ROM functions. Okay. So I'm going to plug in the unit in the back here and press the power button, and it boots up. The fan's rather loud, but it looks like it's working. We can check the firmware version by pressing address and going up once, twice, thrice, 4 times, 5 times. And it is confirmed. It is ROM A.03.01 now. And since it turned on without an error, it's completed its self-checks. So all we have to do is put the case on and figure out the GPIB commands to use data logging. To put the case on, I'll be safe, unplug it first, grab the case, slide it in the back, there it goes. Hold it upside down. Pay attention to the text on this so you don't put the text upside down. And usually I found it's better to put the back bezel on before putting the bolts on the bottom. Once you put the bolts on the bottom, it can squish the case, so it's much easier to do it. Perhaps not completely torque these, but hold them in place so that the bottom bolts don't make it impossible to put the bezel on, and it's easier to hold it in a vertical direction. Now to replace these bottom bolts, like so. I'm going to torque them by hand. There they go. And then the rear bezel. Put the feet back on. I ordered these direct from Malaysia on eBay. There is one last step that's required in order to complete the ROM upgrade, which is to initialize the GPIB board ROM. Following the instructions provided with the upgrade kit, you turn on your supply. Then you have to enter the calibration mode. If there's a password set, you need to know the password, or there's a jumper inside of the unit that you can short in order to disable the password. Anyway, it's set to 0 on this unit, so you press the blue shift key and then cal. Press enter, you see the calibrate enunciator is turned on. Then you must simultaneously depress the 0 and 1 buttons, so like that. You need to use the ROM upgrade command. You can press the big up-down button to go through various options. Interesting, you can turn the fan onto a manual mode, set your fan speed. Anyway, so what we need to perform is the ROM upgrade. So we select that option, press the small up and down buttons until it displays your particular model number. Then press enter, wait a few seconds, and then it will restart itself and the calibration mode will be disabled. The manual says this will not affect the calibration, so now the repair, or the replacement of the firmware ROM is complete.